There is a moment, somewhere around midnight on the first day of a new year, when something shifts. The noise, the countdown, the flash of light, and then a quiet that feels different from ordinary quiet. It feels like permission, like a door that just opened. Most people feel it. That pull toward the clean page. Researchers who study human behavior call it the fresh start effect, the way calendar landmarks create a psychological reset, a sense that what came before is somehow sealed off from what comes next. It's a real and well-documented pattern. The beginning of a new year, a new month, even a new week can produce a genuine spike in motivation. People set intentions, open spreadsheets, download apps, write numbers in notebooks with unusual conviction. And they mean every word of it. That's worth saying clearly. The resolution is sincere. The desire is real. This is not a story about people who were never serious. This is a story about why the method fails even when the intention doesn't. The calendar creates the window. Willpower alone can't hold it open. So let's talk about what actually happens. Sometime in late January or early February, or maybe a little further in for the more determined ones, the structure starts to bend. It doesn't usually collapse all at once. There's no dramatic moment of surrender. What happens is quieter. A meal out that wasn't in the plan. A purchase made in a tired moment because it was easy and it felt small. A week that got complicated and the spreadsheet didn't get updated. Then another week. And then the uncomfortable discovery. The numbers don't add up the way they were supposed to. And instead of a small correction, something heavier sets in. Not just discouragement. Something closer to a verdict. I tried and it didn't work. Which quietly becomes, maybe this isn't something I can do. That verdict is wrong, and it matters that we say so plainly. The budget didn't fail because you ran out of character. It failed because the design asked too much. Here's what the design was actually asking. Every day, across dozens of small moments, the coffee counter, the checkout screen, the end-of-day scroll through a shopping app, it asked you to make a fresh decision about future versus present. And the human mind is not neutral about that contest. There is a well-observed tendency in human psychology that researchers call present bias, or sometimes hyperbolic discounting. The plain language version is this: a small comfort available right now feels far more significant than a larger benefit waiting a year away. This isn't weakness, it's closer to a factory setting. The present is vivid and certain. The future is abstract and speculative. When your nervous system weighs them against each other, the present wins more often than it should. And it wins with very little effort. This is why the coffee or the takeout or the sale item feels reasonable in the moment. You are not being irrational, you are being human. The distant version of your life, the one with more security, fewer money worries, doesn't have the same texture as what's in front of you right now. Every spending moment is a negotiation between your present self and your future self, and your present self is always in the room. Now add one more layer. Decision-making is not a free resource. Most people have observed this in their own lives even without a name for it. Choices made later in the day feel harder. The mental sharpness that helps you weigh options carefully does seem to thin out over repeated use, at least as a felt experience. Whether or not the underlying physiology is precisely understood, the practical reality most people recognize is real enough. At some point in the day, in the week, in the month, the careful version of you gets tired, and a less careful version takes over. That version makes a purchase that the careful version wouldn't have made. And then something else happens. A pattern that behavioral researchers have noted, sometimes called the "what the hell" effect. The logic goes like this. I already broke the plan, so the plan is already ruined for today. Might as well stop tracking. And when that logic repeats enough times, it starts to feel like a conclusion about you, rather than just a rough stretch. Discipline was never the right tool for this job. This is the pivot. Because if the problem is repeated decisions in a world full of spending cues, the solution is not to get better at decisions. The solution is to need fewer of them. Think of money the way you think of water in a building. Water doesn't decide every morning which pipe to travel through. It flows where the pipes send it. The infrastructure does the work. Nobody stands at the junction every day making a judgment call. The routing happens by design, in advance, and it keeps happening without anyone's willpower being involved. That's what a money system does. It converts your once-a-month intention into an ongoing default. Here's how to build it. Picture a main account. Call it the hub. Its job is not spending. Its job is routing. Income arrives at the hub. From there, it flows outward through defined channels. The hub is a switchboard, not a wallet. The first channel runs into what you might call the iron vault, a dedicated account or envelope for fixed costs and essential expenses. Rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, minimum debt obligations, groceries. Everything you must cover to keep the life running. This pipe gets funded first, and ideally the payments leave automatically. Auto-pay on fixed costs removes a category of decisions entirely. The second channel runs toward your future self. Call it the time machine. This is a savings or investing category. The specifics will depend on your situation, your access, your goals. But the structure matters more than the product. Money routed here is routed before you see it, before the present self gets involved. Paying the future version of yourself is treated as a fixed cost, not an afterthought. The third channel is the one most systems forget, and forgetting it is often what breaks everything else. Call it the fun tank. A genuine allocation of money that you can spend without guilt, without tracking, without justification. Because a system that allows no friction-free spending creates a different kind of pressure, the pressure of deprivation. And eventually, that pressure finds a release that blows past every other boundary in the process. The fun tank is not a reward for good behavior. It's load-bearing structure. Separate accounts, separate purposes, automatic flows. What this does, quietly, in the background, is remove the daily tug-of-war. When you spend from the fun tank, no internal alarm goes off because the savings already moved. When you look at the future self account, no guilt follows because the fun money was already accounted for. The mental compartments stop competing because the physical money is already in different rooms. Systems don't require you to be better than you are. They just change what the default is. But the system has to account for reality. And reality is messy. There's a phenomenon worth naming: system drift. Over time, a budget that worked quietly starts to fit less well. Prices rise, a subscription you forgot about renews, a lifestyle expense that felt temporary becomes routine, a bill arrives that wasn't in the original numbers. None of these are catastrophic individually. Together, they can make a system that once worked feel like it no longer does. And the temptation is to blame yourself again when the real issue is that the calibration has slipped. This is why the system needs a pressure valve and a maintenance schedule. The pressure valve is a reserve. Money set aside not for any specific future goal, but for the fact that life produces irregular events. Many financial advisors suggest building towards something in the range of 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, though that number looks very different depending on income, family situation, and circumstances. Even a modest buffer, even 1 month, changes the emotional math significantly. When an unexpected cost arrives and there's a place to absorb it, the whole structure doesn't have to crack. The pressure valve catches what would otherwise become an emergency. And then, every 90 days or so, hold what you might call a CEO meeting with your own finances. 20 minutes, no more. You're not rebuilding the system from scratch. You're checking for leaks. Did the fun tank run out too fast? Did a fixed cost change? Did a new subscription quietly attach itself? Did income change in either direction? Small recalibrations made regularly are far easier than the full-scale crisis repair that happens when drift goes unnoticed for 2 years. A quarterly check-in isn't a punishment, it's maintenance. Here is what this is actually about underneath the mechanics. It's not really about money. It's about attention and anxiety and what your mind gets to do when it's not constantly managing a low-grade emergency. The stress of financial uncertainty doesn't stay contained in a financial box. It follows you into sleep and conversation and work and rest. A system that routes money reliably, that covers the essentials automatically, that protects the future quietly, that allows genuine spending without guilt. That system doesn't just change the numbers, it changes the texture of the days. Imagine next January 1st, the countdown, the confetti, and this time you don't feel the pull toward the dramatic resolution, not because you've given up on your finances, but because you didn't fall off. There is no gap to close. The system ran through March and August and November without requiring heroism, because it didn't ask for any. It just asked for a few hours of setup and 20 minutes every quarter. That's the trade. One-time design for ongoing relief. You don't need a stronger version of yourself. You need a better designed environment for the version of yourself that already exists. If you found this useful, if this way of thinking about money and systems and decision-making is something you want to explore further, consider staying close to this channel. The goal here is to keep looking at the psychology underneath the money decisions, and to keep building frameworks that work with how people actually think, not how we wish we could think all the time.
step
No
through
pressure,
to the next chapter.
just an open door if you want to keep walking through it.